Hey guys, so this lesson is going to be on finding the slope, and we're going to discuss finding the slope three different ways. So, when you have 2 points on the line, is the first way. When you have the line itself or the graph of the line, and then lastly, when you have the equation of the line. So, those are the three ways that we're going to cover, and those were the three objectives in today's lesson. So, the first one, and you'll see this formula off to the side there on your slides, is the slope is equal to the difference in the y values divided by the difference in the x values. So it's the y value from the second point minus the y value from the first point divided by the x value from the second point and the x value from the first point. So these small numbers here, they're called subscript because they're smaller and they're low. Those are just telling you which point to find that x or y value from. And I didn't finish writing this, but when you're finding the difference in the y values, you're finding the rise, you're finding how much the line went up or the line went down. And then when you're finding the difference in the x values, you're finding the run. In other words, how far the line went over from the first point to the second point. So for an example, I have these 2 points right here. So we have a line on our graph and it crosses through the point 5.9 and it crosses through the point 3.6. And I want to find the slope of this line. I'm using m here because m is the variable that we use to represent slope. All right, so I need the y value from my second point. This little 2 is telling me that I'm getting it from my second point. So this is my first point, this is point 1, this is point 2. So the y value in this point is 6. So I'm going to do 6 minus the y value in my first point, which is 9. So we have 6 minus 9 on the top. Now I need to find the difference in the x values. So the x value from my second point, which is 3, minus the x value from my first point, which is 5. All right, so now I'm just going to subtract those and see what I get. When I do 6 minus 9, I get negative 3. When I do 3 minus 5, I get negative 2. If I have a negative divided by a negative, those two negatives are going to cancel each other out. Those are just our integer rules. So this will actually be a slope of positive 3 halves. So my slope would be 3 divided by 2. If I had the graph of a line, I would want to find 2 points on that line where my line crosses right through the grid marks, where it's really easy and straightforward for me to get the coordinates of those points. So this is supposed to go through right there at the origin. So I could use that as one of my points. And I see that it crosses through this point, and that point. So I could pick any of those points. And even if you pick 2 that are farther apart, it'll simplify down and still give you the same value. So I'm going to pick this origin and this point up here, just to give us the practice of simplifying in case I missed that I could have used that closer point there. So I need to figure out how much rise I have, and then I have to figure out how much run I have. So slope is equal to the rise over the run. So if I count how many squares I had to go up to get from this point to that point, I would see that I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So m is equal to 6. Okay, that's my rise. My run, how many I went over, is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went up 6 and over 4. Now, if I look at that fraction, I know that I can divide both of those numbers by 2. In other words, I can simplify my fraction. So when I divide both by 2 to simplify, I get 3 over 2, which is in its simplest form. And so my answer again is 3 over 2. So that would be the slope of this line here. You just simply find 2 points on the line where you cross right through the grid marks, count how much you go up, count how much you go over. If you had a line that was going down, it would have negative slope. So you would count how much you went down and how much you went over. All right. The next thing is if you are given the equation of the line. So y is equal to mx plus b. That should look familiar by now. M, the number that x is multiplied by, always tells us our slope. And this is the slope-intercept form. This is the easiest form of the equation of the line to find the slope. B is the y-intercept. It's where we cross the x-axis. I'm sorry, the y-axis. Sorry about that. Yeah. So B is the y-intercept. It's where we cross the y-axis. And when we were graphing lines, we would always begin at our B value and move according to our slope. All right, so if I had an equation, y equals 3/2 plus 2, I have only two numbers in that equation, and the slope is always the number that's being multiplied by the x. So in this equation, m, or the slope, would be 3/2. There's not anything you have to calculate. These are really, really easy to do. And you aren't always going to be given an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Sometimes you would have to do the work to put it in slope-intercept form, but I'll give you a hint. Everything that you're going to see today is already in slope-intercept form for you. Tried to make those nice and easy for you. The last thing I just want to talk about as a review is if you have a slope of 0. And if we think about what that means. So a slope of 0. So my rise over my run is 0. I had no rise to my line whatsoever. So I have a line with no rise. I've got a horizontal line. This is a slope of 0. So m equals 0. And the equation for a slope like that is just the y value that it would be. So the equation for this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y equals 5 would be the equation of this line. If I had a vertical line, I'm not doing a very good job of drawing lines today, guys. Vertical line, like this, I would write the equation of that as x is equal to whatever x value it crosses through. But the slope here is undefined. In other words, when I go to find the rise over the run, this line has all rise. It's definitely going up, but it has no run. So if I were trying to count it out, I'd have a 0 in the denominator, which we can't have. So the slope is undefined. So horizontal lines have a slope of 0, vertical lines are undefined. Just a little extra refresher that's not in today's assignment. So in today's classwork assignment, you're going to be given a graph or the equation or 2 points. And so for each of them, you're going to have to find the slope. And so I went over all 3 ways. When you found the slope, you're going to type it into the box next to the problem, whether it was the graph or whichever one is given to you in that problem. Just type the number. You don't need to type m is equal to or slope is equal to. You just type the number that the slope is, and if you have it correct, then the box will change colors. And if the box does not change colors, then that means you did not get it correct. So keep working on it. Try it again until it does change colors.